Morning, everyone. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you all here today to Royal College and this conference. We have a packed house, although I can see some stragglers will be coming. I've given myself just a couple of minutes just to introduce the conference and tee up what I hope will be a really fantastic day. We've got some really engaging speakers, some really knowledgeable speakers, so you don't want to hear me drone on. I'll just introduce things and get out of the way. But why this conference? Why now? Actually, before we start, I might just do a bit of housekeeping. None of this would be possible, of course, without our sponsors, some of whom are dotted around the audience, some of whom you'll see in the exhibit halls in the coffee breaks this morning and at lunchtime. I should say that there are two rooms. There's the Osler and Long Room, and the Dorchester Library. The Dorchester is the one that you saw where many of you will have graduated from when you did your membership or your fellowships. And the Osler's on the other side. So please do circulate between the two rooms. There's exhibits in both of those rooms, and there's lots of interesting stuff to see. Second, we are filming. So if your friends who couldn't attend want to know what happened, obviously you can tell them. But we also will have this available later for webcast. We couldn't live stream today. I just didn't get my act together in time. And the last thing is feedback. So hopefully you've all logged into the Wi-Fi. What I'd like you to do is get your phones out and switch your cameras on, take a picture, and the update that you all consented for, you're all aware that you consented for your updates, should have a QR code reader in there that will automatically take you to the survey website. And then and you can just leave that in your phone, do it later, and please then turn your phones to silent. Thanks so much. I'll give you another 10 seconds or so just to get the image. John, taking a while. Okay. If anyone hasn't done that, then please see us later on. We'll have this code for you later on. So why now? And actually, the idea for this conference started when I was on holiday in France with the kids, and we were actually staying with a friend of ours who's a data and web lawyer, who's an AI enthusiast. And really what we had was, we found ourselves trying to convince our wives that AI was a really good thing. And I'm not sure we succeeded. So basically this entire conference has been organized and conceived to convince my wife that artificial intelligence is a good thing. She is in the audience, so I hope we succeed. But more than that, I think we talked to, and around the same time, middle of last year, we were first starting to hear the first inklings of products, of actual products that would deliver artificial intelligence into our workplace. So many of the people that I was talking to at that time have this concept of AI, and I might just get on my soapbox straight away, because practically every other week we hear about how artificial intelligence is beating doctors or outperforming doctors or some other pejorative headline. And we do have some members of the press here today. We do have some researchers here who will be publishing their work. And if I could ask you perhaps to just change the narrative slightly and say, instead of saying that AI is beating us or outperforming us, could we say that it's assisting us, making a better diagnosis or helping patients? That's the end of my soapbox. But just to show you that there's nothing new under the sun, this is from a paper called the Toledo Blade. Don't ask me how I found it. This was from the Johnson administration, the time of the Johnson administration, so that's the 1960s in the US. And people are making these really portentous statements about data and technology and medicine, and how doctors who can be replaced by machines deserve to be replaced by machines. And bringing up you right up to the modern day. This was published a couple of months ago, in fact a couple of weeks ago even. These kind of statements are still being made. So there's a narrative around that I think leads to a lot of disquiet. So partly this conference is to hopefully lift some of that and debunk it. But it's true that if you think about computing, we've come a really long way in a very short period of time. This is a 10 megabyte hard drive in the 1950s. Look at the size of that thing. This is how much a 10 megabyte drive cost in 1980. You could probably buy a couple of really decent sized laptops for that now. This is how much download speeds have changed over the years. Everyone remembers those dreaded blue lines. And right up to today, I resisted buying this, but you can get a terabyte in your thumbnail You know, that size, that's kind of the size of data that we're dealing with now. So we have come a really long way. But we're still grappling with what artificial intelligence is. And this is the other concept that a lot of people will tell me. Everyone uses the term Skynet, everyone says Terminator, everyone says, am I going to lose my job? The answer is probably not. Or is AI my old Texas Instruments calculator? Which was one of the definitions of AI was computers taking jobs that humans would have done. I probably never did cosine. I would have never been able to do a cosine. But so is this AI? Or is this AI? We all remember Mr. Clippy, I think, before we saw him once and then turned him off, I think. But was this, it kind of felt like he knew what I was doing. So is that artificial intelligence? We'll have to find out. The other reason to have this conference is there's been a real explosion of artificial intelligence articles on PubMed to do with medicine. This is the articles that use machine and deep learning in the medical field. And while we in gastroenterology have made up only a small fraction of that, actually, we've actually potentially leading the field, really, in translating artificial intelligence into medicine through randomized trials. There's only been 5 clinical trials of AI in medicine to date, and 4 of them are here. They're mostly to do with adenomas, 1 to do with childhood cataracts. So there's a lot to be said about what we're doing as a specialty in this field. But then I asked you, when you registered for this conference, when you thought this might be available to us as a specialty. I think over half of you, or just over half of you, said not for the next 12 months. A quarter of you said there might be something available now, just under a quarter. So hopefully some surprises for you in the exhibit hall. Please do see what's available. The next question for the skeptics is, do you really need it? Hopefully one person in the audience will appreciate this reference, at least one. But there's a lot of hype around it. There's a lot of people imagining what AI does, what it can't do. And there's a lot of stuff already in the market. And I'll leave you to make your own decisions about whether you need a toothbrush with AI, but there is one available. So do we really need it? The next thing is that there are lots of people, lots of organizations with some skin in the game in terms of regulating or delivering AI and data security in our space. They do seem to be talking, which is great. And then there's another organization who I think are doing fantastic work in trying to explain that all to everybody, to the rest of us. But it begs the question, I don't know if anyone's going to get this reference. There might be some nerds in the audience. This is Bilbo and the Stone Giants from The Hobbits. It was a key scene that stuck with me when I was a kid. The Stone Giants are having a rare old time throwing massive rocks around. They were just playing, but they didn't know that their games were affecting the poor little people trying to make their way on a different journey down the bottom. So as coalface, as sort of grassroots clinicians, how do we get involved or even noticed? How do we make our voice heard? We'll hopefully hear a bit more about that later. And is this how we're going to end up? A sort of seamless marriage of the old and the new. This is from the Medical Futurist, a really excellent web presence if you want to read more and learn more about artificial intelligence. So a seamless marriage of new and old. Or are we going to find ourselves redundant, giving up like this hopeless? Look at the look on his face. He just looks really like he's about to give up, and he did retire after being beaten by DeepMind. Who's responsible when it goes wrong? That's another question we hear often. I'd like to know. Or are you going to end up subservient to our robot overlords, as the song says? This is an artificial intelligence imbued robot that preaches in Japan. Could this end up being us? I don't know. And finally, how does it all work in practicality? Will trusts have to regulate their own interactions with companies big and small? How will the data sharing work? Will NHS England buy this all for us? I would like to know. Does it have a role in centrally guiding and funding this technology? Or can we learn something from other industries that have shared artificial intelligence or are about to share artificial intelligence and learning across the world? And lastly, how do we prepare? Where do we go as a workforce? How do we prepare ourselves? This is the Topol review, trying to grapple with those questions. I would recommend this. It's a good read, and hopefully we'll bring this all to a head and try and work out as a workforce how we're going to deliver on this, how we're going to learn and prepare our trainees for the future of artificial intelligence. So thanks for bearing with me. I'm going to leave it there, and I'll introduce our first speaker. So our first speaker has got a small task to tell you what AI actually is, but I can think of no one better. This is Bilal Mateen, who I still have the pleasure of being an educational supervisor for in his foundation years. But when I first met Bilal, actually, he said, Dr. Hayee, I don't think I'm going to stay in medicine. And I said, I know exactly what you mean. Medicine's really tough. Don't worry, stick with it. This is only your first year. You're going to be fine. And actually, he said, no, you don't understand. And I found out that actually Bilal's a fellow at the Turing Institute. He's an exceptional mind, and he was doing this to keep his brain warm. And so we've managed to secure him, and he's going to stick with us and do a PhD, not an MD. And I can think of no one better qualified to give this talk. Thanks very much, Bilal.